The hex wrench tucked into the pocket of your head cover is the most expensive tool you own that you have never once used. You paid $650 for that driver, maybe more, and somewhere between the fitting cart and the first tee, you decided the factory settings were good enough. They were not. Walk into any big box fitting bay, and you will see the standard Loft sleeve set to 9.5 degrees, because that is what the marketing department shipped to every store in the country. That number was chosen for a 25-year-old tour player with 110 miles per hour of club head speed, not for the body you bring to the course on a Saturday morning. And yet, nobody hands you the wrench and says, "Here, change this before you play." 4 adjustments sit inside that hosel and that sole plate, and they cost nothing to make. No new shaft, no new head, no $300 upgrade that promises 10 more yards and delivers 2. Just a hex wrench, a few minutes in your garage, and a willingness to ignore what the fitting chart assumes about your swing. The question is why the chart never asked about your age. Why does every stock driver ship with settings calibrated for a younger torso, faster hips, and a swing that does not ache the next morning? And what is the one adjustment that untangles both your slice and the yards you have been watching disappear? Hold those 2 questions, because the answers are buried in the same fitting cart that sold you the club in the first place. Here is what the evidence shows, if you look at the machinery instead of the marketing. Add up the gains from all 4 settings, and the number lands around 19 yards of total distance from a club you already own. 19 yards. $0 spent. The only thing standing between you and that gain is the assumption that the wrench is decorative. Those 4 adjustments cost nothing, and the 19 yards they unlock are already sitting in your bag. The only missing piece was knowing the wrench mattered. If that changes how you look at every club you have ever bought, subscribe, and we will keep exposing the dead money buried in the equipment industry. Type 19 yards in the comments and tell us the loft your driver is currently set to, before you ever touch that adjustment. Think back to the last time you stood on the range with that driver, the one you trusted to fix your game. You hit a dozen balls, and every one of them started right and faded further. That weak little curve that lands 15 yards short of where you aimed. You watched a kid 3 bays over launch his ball straight and long, and you told yourself the distance was gone, that it was your age, your body, your time. You packed the club back into the bag and drove home with that hollow feeling that the hope wore off after one swing. The click of the adjustable hosel when you twist it is a sound you have probably heard exactly once, the day you bought the club. The fitting cart has a plastic tray of spare weights, a lie board, a stack of shafts, and a launch monitor that costs more than your car. But the person running the cart is paid to move inventory, not to ask about your back. That is the quiet secret of the whole system. The fitting exists to sell you something, and the settings exist to be sold again later. You are not the problem here. You are set up to be the problem, told that your declining distance was a natural fact of aging, when the real fact is that the equipment never adjusted to you in the first place. The first setting is Loft. Stock drivers ship at 9 to 10.5 degrees because those numbers match the launch angles of players who generate enormous spin with their speed. A senior swing speed, say 78 miles per hour, does not produce that spin. It produces a low, flat trajectory that runs out of carry and rolls into the first cut of rough, losing yards on every single shot. That is why the Loft sleeve exists. You twist it up to 12 degrees, maybe 13, and the launch angle climbs into a window your swing speed can actually use. The ball starts higher, hangs longer, and lands softer, and the distance you thought you lost was never gone. It was just launched too low to matter. But Loft is only the start. The second setting is even more buried in the fitting cart. Notice this. The stock shaft that comes with most drivers is a stiff flex, or a regular at best, because that is what the racks are full of. The fitting cart has maybe one senior flex option tucked in the back, and nobody volunteers it. If you have ever walked out of a fitting feeling like they just sold you what was on the rack, you know that quiet pinch when you realize the shaft was never matched to your tempo. A softer flex allows the club head to whip through the hitting zone a fraction later, squaring the face at impact instead of leaving it open. The result is a ball that stops peeling right, a strike that feels solid instead of hollow. That quiet pinch, when you realize the shaft was never matched to your tempo, is exactly the kind of signal the system counts on you ignoring. Subscribe so you keep catching these signals before they cost you another season of mishits. In the comments, write dead money. What you just heard is the surface. The Dead Money Golf ebook goes 7 levels deeper. Every mechanism, every markup, every number fully sourced. 120 pages of what we can't post here. Plus the vault. 5 private video investigations that exist nowhere else. Link in the description and pinned comment. The cost of ignoring this is not just the slice, it is the compensation. You grip tighter, swing harder, try to force the club head through, and every one of those compensations adds tension to a body that already carries enough. Pause here. The same session where they handed you that stiff shaft, what else did they not show you? The third setting is the lie angle, and it is the one most golfers never even know exists on a driver. As the body ages, posture changes, often without you noticing. The spine rounds slightly, the arms hang a little different, and the sole of the driver starts striking the turf with the toe or the heel instead of the center. On a lie board, that shows up as a mark pressed into the tape, and the fix is a simple adjustment to the hosel that tilts the head 1 degree upright or flat. For a senior golfer fighting a fade, an upright lie angle can be the difference between a ball that starts left and draws toward the target and one that starts right and keeps going. Here is what fitters do not tell you. They will bend your irons to fit your posture without a second thought, but most of them will hand you a driver and never mention that the same adjustment exists. The sound of a flushed heel strike turning into a soaring draw instead of a weak push is a sound you have not heard in years, and it is one twist away. But the third setting is where the pain turns to profit. The fourth ties them all together. That fourth setting is the weight configuration, the movable weight track on the sole of the club. Out of the box, most drivers ship with the weight in a neutral or slightly forward position, which lowers spin and suits a high-speed player. For a senior golfer, that placement is actively wrong. Sliding the weight to the rear position raises the launch angle and increases the moment of inertia, which is a technical way of saying the club becomes more forgiving on mishits. When you hit it off the toe, and you will, the ball still flies with a decent shape instead of dying out to the right and costing you yards. The rear weight also changes the center of gravity, which helps the ball get airborne with the lower spin your swing naturally produces. And if your driver has a draw bias setting in the hosel, closing the face 1 degree can cut the sideways dispersion on your miss by a meaningful margin. For the majority of senior golfers who fight a fade, this is the untangling they have been searching for, the one adjustment that ties the loft, the flex, and the lie together into a club that finally works with the body you have, not the one you had at 25. Remember those 2 questions from the opening. Why do fitting charts ignore the aging body? Because the charts are built from data collected on younger players, then shipped unchanged to every retail bay in the country. The machine does not know your back hurts. It only knows the numbers it was programmed to sell, and the one adjustment that untangles your slice and your lost yards. It was never one alone. It was all 4 working together, and it was available the day you bought the club. If you have ever stood on the tee box gripping too tight, swinging hard, and watching the ball peel right, you have felt the driver working against you, not because you are old, but because the equipment never respected your age. That is the moment this all flips. The driver you bought to fix your game was configured to make you feel like you needed a new one. The loop closes here, and what is left is not a conspiracy theory. It is a hex wrench, a fitting guide, and 19 yards of distance that were in your bag the whole time. That revelation flips the entire purchase you made. 19 yards, a hex wrench, and a hosel setting that was never explained to you at the counter. This is the loop closing right in your hands. Subscribe to this channel if you want to keep uncovering the hidden costs the industry builds into every club you own before you ever step onto the first tee. In the comments, write "dead money." What you just heard is the surface. The Dead Money Golf ebook goes 7 levels deeper. Every mechanism, every markup, every number fully sourced. 120 pages of what we can't post here, plus the vault. 5 private video investigations that exist nowhere else. Link in the description and pinned comment. So here is the truth that ties all of this together. You do not need a new driver. You need to understand the one you already own. Take the wrench out of the head cover, look at the settings printed on the hosel, and start with the Loft. Twist it up to 12 degrees and go hit balls. The launch will look different, higher, softer, and the carry will come back. Then adjust the weight to the rear position and feel the forgiveness on your next mishit. Then, if you still see a fade, close the face angle 1 degree and watch the dispersion tighten. The same range session where they handed you that stiff shaft, here is what you did not see. The cart had a senior flex shaft sitting in a bin under the counter, and nobody mentioned it because the stock shaft was already in your hands and the sale was already done. The fitting chart never asks for your age, your posture, or the ache in your lower back after 18 holes. It asks for your swing speed and your budget, and it assumes the rest is irrelevant. That is the system you are beating, and it is not difficult to beat once you see it. Walk onto the course next week with all 4 settings changed, loft up, weight back, face closed, flex matched to your tempo, and the first drive will feel different. The ball will launch high, hang in the air like it used to, and draw gently back toward the middle of the fairway. The sound of contact will be solid, not hollow, and the distance will be there because it was never truly gone. These 4 settings are the difference between playing the game the industry wants you to play, where you chase the next purchase every season, and playing the game you actually love, where the equipment works for you instead of against you. The wrench was in the head cover the whole time. The only question left is whether you will use it, and the answer starts with a single twist in your garage on a quiet evening before the next round.